Welcome, you all. I am Baron Baptiste, and I'm here with my friend David Masters. Welcome to the show, Disrupt the Drift. This is a place where we can tell the truth, and the truth can be told. David, how you doing, man?
Fantastic, as usual, and especially when I'm hanging out with you, brother.
Yeah. Send your questions, y'all. If you have questions that you want us to respond to, if you send questions, what's going on in your life, where you're stuck, where you're bottlenecked, where you're needing some support, send your questions to Baron at Disrupting the Drift. No, I got that backwards. Disrupting the Drift at BaronBaptiste.com. Disrupting the Drift at BaronBaptiste.com. We love hearing from you. We drop these episodes on YouTube twice a week. Check it out at Disrupt the Drift, or also on the second channel, which is the Baron Baptiste podcast. David, I wanted to talk to you about free will. We talked about this a couple episodes back, and I'm stuck on it. I'm not bought into that we have choice, that we actually have choice, that there's actually free will in life. I'm not bought into like the possibility of free will, but then I'm not bought into it as well. What do you see about free will? Help us get clear. Help me get clear on this. Can we choose in life? Like, really?
Here's the thing, my friend. It boils down to one moment at a time. And to give you a perfect illustration, there was a movie I saw back in 1993. I looked it up here, called Judgment Night. And the idea is that four young friends, while taking a shortcut en route to a local boxing match, witness a brutal murder which leaves them running for their lives. So they said, okay, the traffic is terrible. Oh, look, there's an off-ramp. Let's go that way. And they went through the inner city. I think it was Chicago or whatever. And they end up watching a young man get execution-style murdered. And then the murderer is coming after them. That is a perfect example of free will. Because they made a choice in a moment. They were given a circumstance in which they didn't want to sit in traffic, so they decided to take this off-ramp. And that was their free will at work. Now, the consequences attached to that were terrible. I think only one of them came out alive. This is the kind of thing that happens, though, when you don't exercise your free will responsibly. And it really does boil down to one choice that you make at a time. You do have a choice between left or right. And
you can see it in the moment to do. I was having a conversation with someone about values.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not value driven. And I don't think most people are. They say they are. But when you get, so it's, oh yeah, I'm choosing my values. But in each choice, I'm living by my values. Maybe, but to me, it's like in the moment you see the right thing to do. And then you do that thing. And you know, it's don't go left, or don't go hang out with those people, or don't get into this business relationship with that person. There's things aren't matching up. People are saying one thing, but that somehow it doesn't match up. It's incongruent. It's not consistent, their actions and their words. And then you could choose to go into that pit or you choose otherwise. People get into relationships all the time, and then after the fact they're like, oh, I was abused, or that person wasn't what they said they were. But at the same time, did you see that ahead of time? Was that there? Did you choose to stay in that relationship? And I don't know, because it's maybe, but it wasn't a conscious choice. So to me, it's like you get into a situation and then you just keep drifting along, going along. And then maybe you tell yourself, oh, well, I'm choosing how to respond to this thing, or I'm choosing how to be with this thing. But is it really choice, or is there something? Look, this is a part I see in the moment what's right to the best of your ability to see, right? And then you have to ask yourself, what's blinding me? What blinders do I have on? What am I, if something's too important to me and I keep walking and following that thing that I want, so badly, I'm blinded by that. That will put me in if I say I want a wife or I want this business opportunity and I want it too badly. I have too much of a ego that has to have, I want a wife. So therefore I'm going to bypass all the red flags that are evident there in this person. And just because I want a wife, I'm going to get that result.
Yep.
But is that choice, or is there something else driving the car? Something else moving? So, and here's what I'm getting to is in a kind of surrender, in letting go and coming back to your center, you're guided and you're given guidance and you follow the calling of your conscience moment to moment, but you're not choosing. In self-help, personal development, there's just this whole world of, they teach you, you choose your life. You choose, you design your life. Choose, you can have it all. You can have it all. And you choose what you want for yourself. But then you see these people who take on those teachings and then they find themselves still hitting walls, still in situations, relationships, circumstances they don't want. They would have never have chosen that. If they really go ahead and try to choose to stop all these negative thoughts right now. If you have negative thoughts, okay, try not to have thoughts. Try not to, is that a choice, or is it coming back to truth? Is it coming back to the ground of your being? And then are you choosing moment to moment, or are you following something higher, some guidance given by your creator to you through your conscience? And you get where I'm going here?
Totally. But the idea, what occurs to me is the story of Pinocchio. The little wooden head who was easily influenced by dark influences. And because that little wooden-headed creature didn't know what he was dealing with. And there's a point at which we have to begin to take a certain responsibility for either leaning left or right, or, the idea is that we have a choice, because William Prescott said this, without temptation, you cannot have any claim to virtue. And that has to do with the choosing between one of two things. It always comes down to one of two things. And how many times have you said to yourself, and everybody listening will agree with this, I knew I shouldn't have done that? How many times have you heard yourself say that when something goes crazy or when something goes off the rails? You go, oh man, it doesn't matter if it's a wife or a choice that you made with your kids or a choice you made to work or the people that you're involved with. There's a moment at which you recognize that there was a sort of knowing about whether or not to do or do not something. And what you didn't incline to do is listen to the warning. And I've had those experiences in my life. I've learned the hard way that I should have listened to myself. And when I did listen to myself, it takes years sometimes for that knowing to become salient. In other words, you look back a few years, and then when I wanted to buy a nice house. I've mentioned this before. I could afford it at the time, but just somebody kept telling me, no, that's not for you. And then the housing market crashed, and I would have lost half the value of what I paid for that house. And so I look back and I go, okay, yeah, I listened to myself that time, and I started to really begin to try to discern. Because you do have this thing called free will, but it's not what you think it is. First of all, it's not really free. There's a price attached to free will, by the way, and that is the price is you're going to pay one way or another. You're going to sacrifice something in that moment. Could be that you sacrifice something of your ego in that moment, or you sacrifice something of your freedom in that moment, because your choices tie you to what it is you've chosen or not chosen to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then again, I come back to, I'll give you an example. I come back to the question of what are we choosing? So I was sharing I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day, and we're talking about getting into situations and that you don't want to be in. And I shared with him that if I look back at my life, there have been times where I've wanted something like an opportunity. I look back at opportunities that I missed, like opportunities that seemed just so great, and I was too distracted or too busy or too checked out, or they didn't work out. I gave my best attempt to make it work. It didn't work. And then I was left in disappointment. My ego was wrapped up in it somewhere. And I look back, oh man, I missed that opportunity. But then fast forward a few years, looking back, or many years, look back, I was like, wow, I dodged a bullet. Somehow something was at work. I don't know if it was an angel looking over my shoulder, looking out, had my back, and was just having me not go down, have it not work out. Either me being distracted, my attention not there, and then but it occurred at the time like a missed opportunity. But when I look back, I was like, wow, if I would have gotten to in a relation, like a business relationship or a relationship of some kind with that person or that opportunity, it would have totally been a little hell pit. and I look back and I was like, I didn't choose that way, that outcome that was actually in my best behalf. And maybe I wasn't actually distracted and checked out. It was that somehow energetically, spiritually, whatever it was, something had me not go down that path. Could I have and made that happen? Or it just didn't work at the time, but it was something I wanted. And I wonder, because if I would have chosen it, I would have taken it, that opportunity, or taken that path. But I didn't. And I see that in the whole of my life. If I look back, just let's say the last 30 years, I can see again and again, I could have taken a lot of different directions in life that I didn't take. And at the time, would I have taken those? Would I have chosen those? Yes. But I was blinded at the time. But now I'm like, wow, that was like grace at work. Something had my back. Do you know what I'm saying? So and everything at the time seemed okay. If I would have just gone along with it, if I would have just chosen it, so to speak, I would still be operating in like a fish in water, not realizing what I was swimming in at the time. So I'm following, okay, go left, go right, but something greater, and I'm going to call it my conscience, was leading me in a different direction.
So
it wasn't born out of choice, because I would have chosen, and it would have seemed like the right thing to do in the moment.
But a lot of so there's the conscious and the subconscious side of this equation. And so if we literally think, because this idea of being literal, and a lot of people who are religious are very literal, and they look at things mainly on the surface, and they interpret it based on a lack of actual understanding or insight. However, when a person has, let's say, an insight about something, when an insight is provided, and the insight sometimes comes as a warning, it comes as a prompt of some sort, but usually it's not literal. Usually it is something that's revealed. And whether or not you trust, because trust is a huge component of choice. And I hate to go back to politics, but Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. How do you know this is the right thing to do? Where is this coming from? That's the question that comes to me is like, how do you interpret this message? What is it, from the light or from the darkness? And there's something about questioning something and looking at it and stepping back for a moment in terms of stepping back to become objective as opposed to immediately verifying, oh, that's it right there. That's what I should do. And a lot of people are stuck in that. It's like they keep getting false messages from the ego that you mentioned because it's self-serving. But the other side of that is, let's step back for a moment objectively and look at it. And yes, it would be nice. For example, you want to buy a nice car. Okay. Let's say you want to buy a Porsche or a Mercedes. Oh, that's a good deal on that car. Oh, I know I'd look great driving that car. People would think that I have a person of wealth and that I'm a person of stature. Then comes time for it to be fixed for whatever reason. Then comes time for it to get a tune-up, $6,000 for a Porsche or whatever it is. Then comes the consequence of the wrongly conceived idea that you have this, you could do anything you want, honestly, but that's not necessarily free will. That's a matter of just choosing whether or not you're choosing from your ego or choosing from humility.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think it's a good place to wrap up, but I'll leave it on this is what comes to me right here is faith, living by faith. And there's faith without works is dead, right? Mm-hmm. So faith with action. But let's take the action and the works out and just having faith. That's a kind of trust, right? You say trust and verify, but faith is greater than trust. It's faith in your creator, a higher power, a higher guidance. And to me, it's following those cues in your conscience. And as you've bought enough, if you buy enough Porsches or you buy enough cars or you buy enough houses or you go into enough wrong relationships, and that there's consequence in life, and what is having faith actually, and then where is your will coming in and imposing itself, and then having you do things and take the works, doing the actions that get you into situations that lock you up, that rob you of freedom, that create more drama or more, again, there are consequences in life, right? But then faith with works. So when you have true faith and you don't know, but you have this trust in your inner cues, and then you take the actions to follow from faith, you follow that path and you do the things that are consistent with faith and trust. And there's always going to be risk in that. There's always a risk. And we learn through our failures. We learn through our errors. And sometimes things don't work out, but then they do. And so there's always learning, right, as human beings. And here's what I want to point to. Learning, where is your ego contaminating this faith and this cueing of following your conscience? And where is it getting colored or contaminated with ego different than pure faith?
Yeah.
Any last word?
Yeah. The Lord's Prayer. What does the Lord's Prayer say? Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, if you don't believe in God,
Thy will. Yeah, the will of you.
So what
God,
you do is you lean
creator.
back, right? And you say, God, what do you think the right thing is to do? Okay. Now, the other one is Luke, and we were talking about this, Luke 12, 11 and 12. When you are brought before synagogues, rulers and authorities, do not worry about how you will defend yourselves or what you will say. This is the key. For the Holy Spirit will teach you at that time what you should say. The Holy Spirit will teach you what to say, what not to say. The power of the one above you that created you, that brought you, will teach you, will show you in that moment what you should and should not do. And if you lean into that, if you say, okay, I don't know what to do, I need to be shown, don't give yourself the answer. Wait. Be patient.
Watch. And then it's given.
Yes.
The guidance. And then you follow that. You act on that.
And that is the most perfect exercise of this idea that we call free will, is to let God show you and follow that prompt.
That's where you're free.
That's where you're free. Otherwise, you're a slave.
All right, you all. Thank you for listening. Please comment if you're watching on YouTube. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this free will and choice. And yeah, in 12 steps they have a saying that they have the serenity prayer or something that says, "Show me what I can control and what I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Grant me the ability to see what can I control, what I cannot." And stay true, y'all. Stay true. Till next time, stay bold, stay true, and peace be with you.